Hello, beautiful kind setters. Thank you so much for tuning in. I just wanted to share this idea of it's okay not to share. I'm sharing about not sharing. um, this is new to me because as parents, we always have to teach our kids how to share. It's just our duty. But I think it's more important how to model it instead of forcing the sharing, because when we're forcing the sharing, we're teaching them that it's okay to violate boundaries. And if you're working on something and somebody else comes along and they want to work on that thing, it's not even applicable to real life. If I'm on my computer working and somebody comes over and wants to use my computer at that second, I have a choice to say yes or no. And I think when we take that choice away from kids, then they start to learn that their stuff doesn't really belong to them, and their boundaries can be violated, and their parents support their boundaries being violated. Although it's not just that, like, that's not what the parents are trying to do. It's just this idea of you need to share everything. And I think now, with gentle parenting and conscious parenting, a lot of parents are rising up and saying, it's okay if you don't share. They can be their voice and say, oh, okay, it looks like you're using something right now. It looks like your friend is coming up and wanting to use that. And then maybe talk to the friend and say, can you wait until, your child is done? Explaining to the other child and explaining to your child, would you like to give them a turn when you're done playing with that? Kind of vocalizing and moderating and facilitating what's going on and giving them a chance to say, okay, I can finish what I'm doing here. I don't have to drop everything because my mom told me to, or because this other kid, my friend, wants me to. And that's like saying yes to other things that we don't want to say yes to. And that might later on lead to more toxic things. I mean, it's not so cut and dry like that, but I feel like it could be a gateway to, saying yes when they say mean no. And I think it's really important to help kids develop that strong sense of, okay, it's okay to say no right now. But if I'm not using it, then that's okay too. And we can take turns. But I think the idea of forcing your kid to share when they're not ready to, or they're in the middle of something and they're focused and they're, interested in their activity, and then another kid comes along and they want to play too, you could say, oh, it looks like you just want to play, or maybe we could play with this other thing over here. So I think it's really, really important for us to support our kids, and as long as they're safe, let them kind of work things out, because kids will say no in their own way, even if they're not talking it. They'll grab it, keep it to themselves, and then if somebody does grab it out of their hand, they can also learn how to navigate that and how to deal with their own emotions for that, and how to vocalize what they need there. So I just wanted to share that tidbit that I'm learning. It's just so new, but it makes sense, a lot of sense to me. And it's not the familiar way of doing things. And I think it's a much more, creates much more independence and allows kids to have choices of their own when they're playing. And it also empowers them to figure things out for themselves. So yeah, especially along the lines of boundaries. That's why a lot of us don't have great boundaries, because we were told not to have boundaries. We were told not to be okay with owning stuff. And of course we want to fight back. I mean, if something's important to us as a kid and then our parent is somebody who else wants it and we're playing with it right now, later on, like a few minutes later, we might not be interested in that anymore. And then that naturally could be, going to someone else to play with. But in that moment, it is very important. And I think it's important to support what's important to our kids in that moment and allow them to explore. And what happens if somebody does take something important away from us? How do we feel? Maybe even naming those emotions. Like, it's frustrating that your friend took that away from you. And seeing, how did you feel? Maybe they don't have an answer then, but it's good to give them to encourage introspection and curiosity. And yeah, it's frustrating right now. I can empathize with you. And tune into that and giving them permission to tune into that instead of shutting it off. And then, giving the toy to the other kid and saying, you need to share, this isn't also not to guilt anyone, and myself too, because I do this. I have a tendency, because we all want our kids to be nice and be a reflection. I think society, we think our kids are a reflection of who we are, but they are their own people and they make their own choices. And it's so much more powerful if we empower them to find their voice and to explore what happens. If somebody does take something away, how do you say, I want that back, in your own way, in a safe way, without, of course, hitting or biting or anything like that? But that's where we step in, and then we say, I can't let you hit right now. I know you're going through something really hard right now. You want that, and kind of putting words to that instead of just stopping it or forcing a behavior. I think it's much more powerful if we kind of label what's going on and let them get curious about themselves, the other person, what the situation is, and learn from the situation, because we're not always going to be there to make their decisions, and that's the whole point. So yeah, God bless you and have a beautiful, beautiful day.